tell us what makes a haiku. What's the difference between a haiku and just a very short poem?
Well, why don't I read something that definitely answers it?
Great.
And I think it'll be, I think it'll really help. And actually it's apropos because I learned it in 1976 in Boulder, Colorado. Allen Ginsberg, the poet, first introduced me to haiku. There are 4 great Japanese haiku writers, he declared, holding up a finger for each one as he named them in front of the class in the summer of 1976. We were at Naropa Institute in Boulder, Colorado, at the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics. Basho, Busan, Isa, Shiki. No women, I thought. Okay, I'd take the boys on and learn what I could from them. Sure, there were some women hidden in history. He also told us that the formal 5 syllables, then 7, then 5, often taught in Western schools, does not necessarily work in English. In Japanese, each syllable counts. They don't have the, and, that, those articles of speech. So he encouraged us not to worry about the count if we were to write or translate haiku. Only make sure the 3 lines make the mind leap. The only real measure of a haiku, Allen told us that one hot July afternoon, is upon hearing one, your mind experiences a small sensation of space. He paused. I leaned in, breathless, which is nothing less than God. I never forgot that. That's verbatim from 1976.
That's great. I'm glad you read that piece. That's one of the pieces that has stayed in my heart, that leap in that 3rd line.
Yeah.
So you were studying with Ginsberg all those years ago. I know you've been writing haiku for years, and I know you've been teaching haiku and doing haiku workshops for a long time. Why now? Why this book now?
Well, actually, I've been reading a lot of haiku, not writing a lot. And I haven't taught haiku workshops. Sometimes I throw in haiku in a workshop. But it's interesting. Other people have asked me this too. Why now? Why not now? I actually don't know, except that I read this haiku at Ojo Caliente, which I write about in here. Ojo Caliente is this hot springs. And I read it in 1991, I think, when I was staying there. And it's by Busan. And my Zen teacher, Katagiri Roshi, had just died. And I know the haiku, so I'll recite it.
Can I ask you to read that piece? That was the piece I was going to ask you to read from page 9 to the end of that chapter, exactly this.
Oh, okay. Why don't I read that? Okay.
It's great. Yeah.
I'd love to. I met Busan in 1993 when I'd gone for the weekend back when it was funky and cheap to Ojo Caliente, a hot spring spa in northern New Mexico. We rented a small cottage replete with pale yellow linoleum floors, creaky doors, lumpy bed, painted wood knobs on cabinets, and a kitchen with formica counters, square table, and 4 matching yellow chairs, all for $48 a night. I even schlepped in a hibachi for barbecuing steaks on the back porch. Almost as an afterthought, as I darted out my back door for the weekend, I grabbed R.H. Blythe's Haiku, Volume 1, Eastern Culture. Ginsberg had said, get Blythe if you want a good translation. When we hit Ojo, I immediately became ensconced in the Blythe haiku book. The first day passed with my nose rarely out of it. This was not the original plan. I was with a new girlfriend. It was supposed to be a romantic getaway. My attention manifested like this. Hey, listen to this haiku. I read aloud. The lightly freckled Irish skin around my girlfriend's eyes crinkled. Her upper lip showed her small teeth in a half smile. She said nothing. I ignored any signs of discontent. My new girlfriend, on the second morning of our 3-day weekend, realized the only way to get through to me was with haiku. At breakfast over scrambled eggs, cheese, and tortillas, she burst out, "Kiss me, you fool. Winter is coming." My head jerked up. I grabbed her. But the next day I was at it again, soaking in the old hot springs, the sun nakedly glaring down, my hair dripping, a wet towel around my shoulders. I opened the book again. In the bottom left corner, a haiku. Ah, grief and sadness. The fishing line trembles in the autumn breeze. Ah, grief and sadness. The fishing line trembles in the autumn breeze. October poured through the aspens and over the rocks. I stared into the far distance, then looked down at the page. The haiku was written by Busan, not Basho. I vowed then and there in that northern New Mexico hot springs that if I ever went to Japan again, I'd find Busan's grave and pay homage. It took 19 years before I had the opportunity to fulfill my vow. And so in 2012, I went again to Japan after many, many years with the Upaya Zen Center. And the last day of the 3-week visit, I looked for his grave, for Busan's grave, and I found it. So why did I write this now? Well, I guess because I found his grave. I came home and I started to write this book. A lot of times I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just writing. And I knew that I had some line that I was pulling in. So I was writing and writing. And then I got cancer. So a few months after I came home from this trip, I had cancer. So I left this book and I wrote The Great Spring while I had cancer. And when I found out I was going to live, I wrote Let the Whole Thundering World Come Home about cancer. And then I went back to this book. And I didn't really want to write it because I was tired. And so I made a decision, well, I'll read a few pages, and if it's no good, which I hoped it wasn't, I didn't have to work on it. But it was good, it was strong, and I knew I had to do it. So for me, this is the third in my cancer series. You wouldn't know it because I hardly mention cancer in this book, but for me personally, it's the third of my cancer series. It was sort of looking back and saying, cancer, I got to do what I was planning to do.
So I want to just draw your attention to the first 2 lines of the book. Haiku is a refuge when the world seems chaotic, when you are lost, frightened, tangled, and nothing is clear. That just, tell me more about that. How has haiku been a refuge for you? What do you draw from?
Okay, I'll just, it brings you present. Haiku captures the moment. And even all haiku, if you pay attention, all the verbs are always present moment. So I'll read you some haiku. I haven't written as much as I have read it. I would sometimes just pick up a book and read haiku, and it just brought me right here. So I'll just, Millie Willie, here. I did find a woman haiku writer when I went over to Japan named Chione. I'll read you a few of hers and then I'll read you some others. I just opened to this accidentally. Till his hat fades into a butterfly, I yearn for him. Till his hat fades into a butterfly, I yearn for him. Woman's desire, deeply rooted, the wild violets. Can you feel that space, that experience where the mind sort of goes, eventually, whose skin will they touch? Rouge flowers. Now this one, when she had an awakening experience, this is how she expressed it in this haiku. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Clear water, no front, no back.
Wow.
Clear water, no front, no back. I'll read you a few more from some of the others. Oh, here's Shiki. Shiki, in it, I give you biographies. I tried to throw everything in this book. You get biographies of the great old Japanese haiku writers. And Shiki, at 13, coughed up his first blood. He had TB. He knew he would die early, and he died in his early 30s. So he always knew he was going to die. But it's because of him that we have haiku today. He lived till 1902, and like he threw haiku into the 20th century. And he did have disciples and everything. And the last 5 years of his life, he was in such pain that he was bedridden the whole time. But every morning he would drag himself to the edge of the tatami and sit and look out at the garden, waiting for a haiku. Talk about determination.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was dying, he signaled his mother and his sister who took care of him, and his disciples came running that it's his time, he's going to die. They held a pallet over his head, and he took a brush and painted 3 death haikus. I mean, okay, so I'm going to read you a few Shikis. There's a whole history of him in here. Cherries blooming, people I remember, all far away. Cherries blooming, people I remember, all far away.
That's one of my favorite in the book.
Oh, really? Really? Yeah, I would imagine you would feel that way, especially from London, and
Yeah.
I love this one. And this is really telling you something to do when you feel crazy, like during the pandemic, what you just asked me. He even gives you an instruction in this small haiku. Stifling heat, tangled in confusion, I listen to thunder. Stifling heat, tangled in confusion, I listen to thunder. So just shut up and listen, receive. Nearing death, even louder, autumn cicadas. Oh, nearing death, even louder, autumn cicadas. And this one I really love. Well, I want to read you this one though too. Spring departing, no wife, no child in this grass hut. But this one, I'm going to read you the little paragraph I wrote after it because it's such a jewel. Winter camellia, using all its strength, blooming red. Winter camellia, using all its strength, blooming red. You can feel how he is talking about himself in this last haiku, his huge effort to live and assert his vision through the camellia that pushes to bloom, even in cold, inclement weather. I mean, these are killers.
So this other piece caught my attention. So near the end of the book, you say, capturing the spirit of haiku. Okay, you've just been talking about how strict people are about whether they stick to the syllable count of 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables, or whether they're trying to convey the spirit of haiku, but not being so strict about the syllable count. And you say, capturing the spirit of haiku is what I am most interested in. And haiku asks for a spirit that is not so human-centered. And that fills me, that it's not so human-centered. And I'd love to hear you say more about that.
That's great. That's the relief. That's part of the relief of haiku. Remember what you said, that it's great to, it's a relief. We are not the center of the universe, and our suffering isn't as important as we think it is. And so it notices something else, like noticing the trembling of a fishing line and caring about the fish, getting outside ourselves. And I think that's I grasp in the darkness of the heart a firefly. It just goes someplace else. I grasp in the darkness of the heart a firefly. So it gets us uncentered about ourselves. It gets us noticing. There's a little, I'm going to see if I can find it quickly. I want to read it to you. What is the way of haiku? Bare attention, no distractions, pure awareness, only noticing what is in the moment, being connected to seasons, unconnected to self-clinging. And then out of that, composing your experience in 3 lines that go beyond logic, that make the mind leap. In the center, a taste of emptiness, a frog, a crow, a turnip. The ordinary right in front of you is the realm of awakening, pure Zen, but not Zen.